Hey, good evening, everyone. Good to see everybody here this evening. And let me get rid of the audio over here. There we go. That's better. But anyway, made a new intro for the show. Am I getting okay? Just want to check on my audio levels. This is a little bit different beginning for me this evening, as far as the intro. So I wanted to. It caught me off guard a little bit, and it's like, oh, I gotta get all my stuff in order here. So anyway, before I digress any further down a rabbit hole, let's start the recording. Actually, let me get, for some reason, my chat screen is gone. So I guess we'll flop that back up here so I can see what the heck is going on, because I can't see anything. Get the chat screen up there. Okay, now we're not. We're just being stupid now. That's exactly what I wanted. Stupidity. Let me. Well, heck. I guess we just won't do. I don't know where my text window went. I love these random surprises that I always get. Good evening, Voodoo Queen. Good to see you. And David Dwyer, good to see you. Let me start the recording, and we will resume with the Freedom Talk.
In the restaurant of life, we're putting freedom back on the menu. It's the Missouri Liberty Report with John Williams, working with grassroots organizations and legislatures to make Missouri the freest state in the nation. Let freedom ring.
All right, folks, and we're back with another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Thanks so much for joining me again this week. I've got a lot of different things that I want to talk about tonight. There's just so much. And it's one of those things like, well, where the heck do you start? Well, I mean, I want to start with something here in the state of Missouri first. And it's something that I've kind of brought up, a couple times on the show before. I think I brought it up a couple weeks ago when I had Bryant Wolfen on, and then Tom and I discussed it a little bit. Catherine's in the live stream. Good to see you, Catherine. Appreciate you being here. A little tongue-tied this evening. Anyway, so as you all probably are aware of, Governor Parsons signed an executive order getting rid of all adulterated or, anything, basically hemp-derived intoxicating substances. He wants to embargo them all and get rid of them. And he's saying, I guess what he's saying is he wants to regulate them more, force these companies to change their packaging. It's for the kids, okay? Unconstitutional as all get out, but it's Parson, and he's a rhino, and he's not a conservative. No matter what hillbilly thunderbutt Scott Fawn says, he's not a conservative. So it's no surprise that he would do this, right? And so on September 11th, of all the days, on September 11th, in Washington, Missouri, the DHSS shows up and says, we need to, basically confiscate and they're non-alcoholic hemp beverages. We're here, and okay. So let's just let's break this down. Yeah, because Catherine's making a good point, which I have made before now, not by names, because I couldn't remember the guy's name. But Tilly, who is one of Parsons' best buddies, I believe, now Catherine, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he is in the cannabis trade business. And I believe wholeheartedly, without a doubt, that this was one of Parsons' parting gifts before he leaves office. I would believe it would be in January, right? This is his parting gift to one of his bestest lobbyist buddies. is to drive everybody to the dispensaries and say it's for the children. A phrase that is spewed ad nauseum, and honestly, I'm getting a little sick and tired of it. Actually, I've been sick and tired of it for a long time. Once you understand how government operates, once you understand how these people think and what the true agenda is when they use the phrase for the children, you automatically know it's not going to be good. Someone's going to get screwed over. Because let's face it, you look at the public school systems, you look at all these other things. Does government really care about the kids? No, of course they don't. But using that little key phrase, kids, tugs at the heartstrings of so many people that they just fall for it. They fall for it. And so this is another government trick, another rhino, liberal, Democrat. They both parties use this "it's for the kids" phrasing constantly. And it's just, and that phrase gets so used, it gets used so much that people who are brainwashed, it initiates something in their head. It engages a thought in these brainwashed people's heads. And like, oh my God, it's for the kids. We must let government take control and do this. Oh, and Tilly and Kehoe do not get along, so Tilly had to get Parson to make it an executive order. Interesting. Now, John Grady, who runs Slap Happy Beverage Company, local company here. I mean, he lives 15 minutes away from me. He called Kehoe's office that day and talked to, I believe it was Kehoe's chief of staff. And according to John, this chief of staff was not happy. He said you could hear the steam boiling out of this guy's ears. Okay, now, was the guy really ticked? He might have been. And I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's the confiscation thing that he's mad at. I think it's the fact the day they chose to do it on. 9/11. I wish I was intelligent. I really wish I was intelligent. Intelligent enough, even if I could make a fake one, to put a scanner in like at the entryway of some of these bureaucracies, these agencies, little headquarters or whatever. And every time they would pass through, you would just see a number light up above it. And every time it'd go through, it'd say 1, 4, 20. And people are like, oh, what's that mean? Am I the second one into the office today? No, I'm sorry. That's the amount of brain cells you have. This is a brain cell scanner. It's saying you have 2, and they're fighting for third place. You have to be a person that is just willfully, you are on a power trip. You're on a massive power trip in order to do something like this to veterans on 9/11. They may have people who are members there who fought in the Middle East, and you show up at their post, their VFW hall, and say, oh, by the way, we got an anonymous tip. Hand it over. Now, fortunately, these veterans are there. I'm not this. Any way I phrase this is going to sound like I'm insulting veterans. That's not. This is not. I'm not trying to say that. Okay. These veterans know their stuff. because Stanfield expressed his disgust. Now, Stanfield was there. He had just lowered the flag to half-mast. Okay? It says, the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services raided our VFW post on the morning of 9/11 in search of adulterated beverages that have allegedly, violate Governor Parsons' hemp adulterated food product embargo, which, as he claims, is intended to protect children. To be clear, VFW Post 2661 does not sell adulterated products. All beverages are in compliance with revised Missouri Statute 196.070, paragraph 12.2, which states a food shall not be considered adulterated solely for containing industrial hemp or an industrial hemp commodity or product. Furthermore, hemp is federally legal in all 50 states under the 2018 Farm Bill. Lastly, all our sales from our canteen are to persons 21 and older. So basically, they told him to go take a flying leap through a rolling donut. And good for them. Good for them. And like Voodoo said, I explicitly remember saying this thing before Amendment 3 passed. And Epen Thampy, friend of the show, Epen Thampy, has made this point a lot. This was one of his warnings to all of us, to people who were thinking of voting yes on Amendment 3. This was one of his warnings. Because I went to a place, a town, it's a couple towns away from me, a little joint that I go to once in a blue moon, and they did have some hemp products in there, some edibles and stuff. And I said, hey, guys, I just want you to be aware, if this Amendment 3 passes, there's a very high chance that they're going to come after these and pull them all. And they're going to try to drive everybody into the dispensaries. So tell your customers to make sure they vote no. Well, we all saw how it went, right? 16 counties out of the whole state passed Amendment 3. And yeah, to add to what Voodoo said, this is why you need to read and do your research. That's exactly right. This is why you read and do your research. But hey, we're stuck with it now because it's in the Constitution, which makes it very, very, very difficult to get that removed. It's in there. And I wonder how many people at the end of the day who voted yes, I wonder how many of those people possibly regret their decision. I hope a lot of them do. But I'm sure a lot of them don't because they got their legal weed. And that's what was important to them, legal weed. Screw the ramifications. And therein lies a big problem, right? We have a lot of people who do this. They don't look at the outcome. They look at the intent. And you have to think about what the actual outcome will be. Especially if you're putting something into the state constitution. That's a big thing. That's just not like some old statute that gets put in the Missouri state law book that maybe can be amended down the road or removed. You're interlacing this amendment into the Constitution. You are placing it into the state constitution, a document which is only supposed to limit the government and not you, the people. We, the people, are not to be limited by the Constitution, only the government. And guess what? They got people to buy in enough to put limitations on themselves in the document that lays out government's role, what rights they are to protect, what, things they're, constitutionally allowed to do. And the people put their shackles on and put it in the Constitution. Catherine says Missouri is starting to suck more and more. Listen, folks, I know I sound like a big old horse's patoot when I say this, but uneducated people do this. And there's a lot of us out here who maybe don't even use these products per se. Some people might, some people don't. Who don't have a problem with legalizing recreational marijuana. We don't have a problem with it. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to use any of those things, but we're fine with people who want to make their own choice. Right? We're in that group of people. You know, it goes back to that question that I've laid out on the show many times. That was like a promo on a libertarian station of some kind. It was like, I think it was on LRN. You know, it's the question of the statement / question. There are those who just want to be left alone and those who just won't leave them alone. Which one are you? It seems we have a lot of people who don't want to leave other people alone. And that's the thing. When you enshrine something like Amendment 3 into the Constitution, you're affecting everybody. It's just like a lot of statutes and things that get passed in the legislation. It could be tax credits. It could be a myriad of things where someone seemingly makes it look like they're trying to help others out. They're just trying to help people out. But it affects everybody for the most part. You know, Parson was a huge supporter of ag credits, agricultural tax credits. Just huge. Unconstitutional. And its very foundation absolutely goes against the Constitution. Because if you're going to give a tax credit, you got to give it to everybody, not just a select group of people. And so, I mean, but are we shocked anymore by this behavior? I'm not. Now, the 9/11 thing, even I didn't expect that. I didn't expect it to happen on a day like that, right? Does it surprise me when I sit and think about it? Nope. When you sit back and you're like, oh yeah, well it is a state agency, and you know, again, folks, all these government created agencies and bureaucracies, the heads of most of these departments, they're all appointed. They're all appointed by the governor. And generally, someone who's appointed by a governor isn't going to go against his wishes. They will very enthusiastically carry out the orders because it gives them, in their minds, relevancy. And it keeps them relevant as an agency or bureaucracy, whatever you want to call it. It lends them relevancy. Because people like DHSS, what do? Screw around and mess things up. And then, you know, Parson lays out this executive order and DHSS is like, charge. I bet there are people like blowing horns and all kinds of stuff. A couple people on horses carrying banners, getting all amped up to go into businesses that they don't own and telling them what products they can and cannot carry simply by an unconstitutional executive order signed by a big fat rhino. It's the problem started when Ashcroft certified the amendment instead of saying it did not comply with RSMO and MOCON. This is what happens when ignoramuses vote. Let's see. DHSS has the most pages in our state budget, says Catherine. I haven't added up how much money they receive compared to other departments. I'm sure it's massive amounts. And Tom Martz made the first, of course. If you bring up revised statutes of Missouri or the Constitution, especially if you put them in the same paragraph, chances are that's Tom Martz, our Constitution guy. But Jesus Christ. You know how sick it makes me that I have to get on here and talk about this ignorant crap? I want to cuss so bad right now. I'm keeping my composure. This goes on the radio. I have to keep my composure. But God, do I want to say and just lace it with a whole bunch of flowery words. And it really goes to this behavior on September 11th. And I don't even get me. I don't want to diverge into the war on terror as much as that was just a complete and utter failure. Okay, I'm not even going to get into that. But I do want to touch on this government. It just chomps at the bit to send people to a foreign country and get them possibly killed or maimed or something. And when they come home, they don't get treated very well. And they're home, and some jackass in an office writes out an executive order, signs it, sends his thugs to a veteran, a place where veterans get together and have a good time. And goes and raids them on 9/11. Can you get any more disrespectful than that? It's hard to. It's really hard to. I bet you none of those gentlemen that were at that post at that time expected anything like that to happen. They didn't expect that crap at all. None of it. Jesus. I mean, I don't know how you can be that dumb. I don't know how you could be that utterly ignorant. But hey, hey there, my chat window's back because I'm not stupid anymore. I hit the little button. Anyway, so yeah, just all around disrespectful behavior. And, I would hope that whoever did that, whoever made the decision to do that on that day, let alone any other day, but it just highlights the downright tyrannical nature of these bureaucracies and these agencies, state or federal. I would hope that these people get the biggest... I think some people should lose their job. At the end of the day, tell them to, again, go take a long dive off a short pier. Okay? Something. They should lose their jobs. First and foremost, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. That's the way I'm looking at it. But somebody should at least get the old, the Catholic school punishment where they lay their hands on the desk and then whack with a yardstick across the knuckles. God almighty. I have had to catch myself from cursing so many times in the last 10 minutes. Because this stuff just drives me insane. Excuse me. But, when we have a whole lot of people, okay, let's go back. Let's go back 4 years ago. COVID. The Department of Health, DHSS, all these people were thugs. Then, during Parsons, during Parsons' reign as governor, they acted like thugs. And, they were empowered. They were emboldened. During that time, and it's carrying on. What are hemp products going to be the new COVID? Oh my God. We got to go in there and save kids from hemp. Is this, we just these people are so emboldened because we have leadership who doesn't care. We have leadership, and I don't even want to use that word. Let's not use that word, leadership, because what has been done in this executive order alone does not constitute leadership. So let's just say the person in office, holding the office of governor, a supposed conservative champion, he's doing this stuff. People, you got to figure. People have to figure this out at some day. And Catherine's saying the same thing. The power of our lobbyists at work. And Kehoe will be the same. He absolutely will be the same. It may be different groups. It may not be the cannabis guys. It may be other groups. Ag. Let's see. Ag, car dealerships, realtors, all this stuff. They're making it rain on him. It might be different groups, but same behavior. Same behavior. But this person in the office of governor, Mike Parson, you know, anytime I hear somebody call him a conservative champion, I want it to be throat punch Thursday. Every time. I think Parson did a good job. There, silence. We needed that silence. But listen, it started. Let's hope that enough people see this, and that I hope a lot more veterans see this and really start just digging in. They start digging trenches and be like, listen, bro, it's war. You want it? You got it. And I'm not talking about that type of war. I'm just like, you want to come in here and try to take beverages out of our post when you know darn good and well we're not serving these to anybody under legal drinking age? Get out of here. Bye. And I hope they all just dig in and say no. And I wish that a lot of these businesses that carried these Delta 8, Delta 10, whatever products, I wish they would all go, no, you're not coming in here. And we need these businesses, these VFW posts, anybody that has these products in their stores, they need to do what a lot of them did not do during COVID, which is say, screw off, dude. Go away. You're not embargoing these products. You will not step foot in the door. You're not a customer. You want to act like a thug? Good day to you, sir or ma'am. Or he, she, they, them, whatever. I think they got I think their pronouns are butt and head. I'm talking about these DHSS folks. But yeah, I mean, it's disgusting behavior. And I don't know how else to put it. But I really wish, I wish a whole boatload of veterans would drive up to the governor's mansion and go, hey, could you come outside? We need to have a chat, Mr. Conservative Champion. Mr. Freedom Guy. Come on outside. Let's talk about freedom and liberty. Come on. Let's have a chat. He won't. If he did, it would be he'd have somebody off to the side taking video and clipping out the parts where they were getting along, not the butt chewing that he would be getting from them. And he'd try to make it some kind of photo op. And then, some jackass like Scott Vaughn would be like, did you see Parson out there talking to them veterans today? Now that's leadership. That's a true conservative leader right there. I'm just waiting for these guys to hold up their fingers like Nixon and go, I am not a crook. Jesus. All right, I need to move on before my head explodes. But I just wanted to let everybody, if you hadn't heard that information, now you know. Thanks to John Grady for pointing that out to me. Also, Tom Martz, I know, covered that on his show this morning on KSGF. So Tom also covered this on his show this morning, so shout out to Tom. You can tell, folks, that I have one bad spark plug today because I'm not firing on all cylinders. Whew. Trying to let's see. Let me find some other good stuff here. I've got all kinds of stuff that I can play. That we could get in. Oh, okay, let's get into this. I'll stop with the Missouri thing for right now, and we'll move to the federal level. I wish I could do this with a straight face and not laugh. I wish I could do this and not chuckle. And it is because it's not really funny. It really isn't. I had people who worked like, did you watch that debate? No, I didn't. And they look at you like, why not? Well, because I'm not that smart anyway. And I don't want to feel like my IQ is circling the drain. I said, I already know they're going to get asked questions. They're not going to answer them. Not to mention, it's a left-leaning, definitely left-leaning news outlet that was doing the debate. I don't like Trump. I don't like Harris, but I knew it was going to be basically the moderators and Harris versus Trump. Now, I will say this. I'm going to say it right now. I expect fully, and I don't, listen, folks, it's going to take every bit of my power to say this next thing and not throw up on my keyboard. I fully expect Harris to win the presidency this year. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, they're cheating. They cheated. Listen, the media, we all know the media has a slant. I'm just going to say this. You have a guy who was president from 2016 to 2020, who was impeached twice, who they hated with a passion, did everything they could to just blow apart anything he wanted to do. It could have been good stuff. Because Trump was doing it, kill it. Let's not do it. Okay? And the Republicans and the people picked him to run again because, let's face it, again, I'm going to preface this. Every time I talk about Trump, I feel like if I talk about Harris, they're like, you're a Trump supporter. No, I'm not. I don't like either one of them. But he they put him on trial. He got however many felonies. So people thought, they flocked to him. It got him a boatload of support. I feel like the Democrats did this on purpose to get his base and maybe some independents fired up because it is what they were doing is wrong. It was wrong. Absolutely, without a doubt, horrible behavior on their part. Okay? But they did this, and I think it was to fire those people up so they would make him the nominee. They could beat him again. They beat him in 2020. They're going to beat him in 2024. What I have to say to that is Republicans, the people out there that are just supporting Trump without thinking because it's like a cult, if he loses, take a look in the mirror. You can blame. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a bias. And even tech companies have participated in filtering or elimination of information. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. But you pick the guy who people might be independent and like they just hate Trump. They don't like his personality. They don't like him for a myriad of reasons. That's the guy you're going to run again. What do you expect? What do you expect? Is the treatment of him by the media and a lot of these other idiots out here fair? No, it's not. Look what they did to Tulsi Gabbard. They put her in that Secret Skies program. She got followed 3 times by air marshals. She was being swabbed for explosive, particles, and then right before she got on a plane, she'd have to go through the whole rigmarole again. And if it wasn't for the whistleblowers working for the TSA and stuff, we wouldn't even known this. And it's simply because she's not playing patty cake with the Democrats anymore. And then you have RFK Jr., who gave a pretty good speech, brought up all this stuff on health. And his family and all these other people, because he decided, he thought, he looked at as Harris as more dangerous than Trump, which I actually agree with. Again, don't like Trump, but I think Harris is inherently more dangerous because I have to say this with a, kind of a caveat. There's no way this woman will be running anything. Just like Biden wasn't running anything. Everybody, they're going to tell her what to do. She will do it because she's just happy she's in the White House. One of the biggest morons ever will be in the White House. She will be a figurehead, and all these other, and the very powerful will tell her what to do, and she will happily do it because she's in the White House now. Hey, Agorizer, how are you? But I do think she's more dangerous than Trump. Okay? I don't know. I think that Trump is going to get more sympathy votes than the Democrats believe he is going to get. But I think Harris is going to win. I think Harris is going to win. And I do not take pleasure in saying that. That is not me like, yeah, screw Donald Trump. Yeah. Gonna get Harris in there and she's gonna make everything better. But you had RFK who got crapped on. And again, the stuff he said on healthcare about obesity and diabetes, the man has his facts down. I don't like his economic policies. I don't like a lot of other things that he talks about. But on health, he's pretty good on health. On some of the health issues, he's pretty good on. Again, not real fond of a lot of his domestic policy on economics and stuff like that. He caved to the whole Israel lobby group, Tulsi Gabbard, she's pretty good on war. There's a lot of her economic policies I don't like. But let's not forget how she stood on stage and undressed or dressed down. Thinking about Kamala Harris getting undressed, that'll make it throw up on your keyboard. But totally just dressed down Kamala Harris on stage on her record as a prosecutor. And what happened right after that? Hillary Clinton claims she's a Putin puppet. How dare she speak out one little teensy bit about some of the policies of the Democrats. So God knows what they'll do to RFK. I mean, look what they've done to his family. Jesus. I have to give RFK this. After what's happened to his family, and he still has the guts to come out, write that book about Fauci and stuff, you got to give the guy some cred, man. That takes some intestinal fortitude to do that. How many people do you know that would do that? I don't know many. I'll tell you that. I don't know many at all. That would do what he's done. I mean, they came out after him hardcore. And he took it like a champ. And he kept pushing on. And eventually he's like, that's the other thing too. I love how he's like, all right, we're gonna pretty much pull out of the race, especially in the swing states. And in the states, some of these states are like, oh, you can't get off the ballot. Not in our state, because maybe you'll pull some votes from Trump. This whole thing drives me absolutely crazy. That these are the two choices that we have. And you don't think our country is going down? Some of these people don't think our country is going down the toilet at all. I don't know how you come to that conclusion. I wish I could remember all. Okay, so Tom March sent me a link to a Spotify. Well, it was a podcast. It was a Spotify link. And I think the show is called Letters from Our Founding Fathers. And he was talking about democracy. And it was Hamilton and Adams. He was just going through letters from Hamilton and Adams about the word democracy. And how democracy is it's suicidal. It ends in violence. And the people that support it are knaves, fools, and savages. And as you well know, you see all over the place, you hear it every freaking day in the media and from our politicians on both sides of the aisle, mind you. We've got to save our democracy. We have to save our democracy. Democracies do not survive. I think Benjamin Franklin said, it's a republic as long as you can keep it. But now everything is about saving democracy, and they do not survive. They end in violence. And some of the other phrasing, and again, I can't remember it verbatim. My memory is horrible. I have old man brain. But they're talking about being equal in the end. And what also they mentioned is things like private property going out the window. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Private property, the loss of private property. And we're hearing Republicans and Democrats talking about democracy. We hear people in the media talking about democracy. Does it seem like, looks like to me, does it seem like they're actually trying to murder this country? They're trying to kill the nation and build up their own little empire. I got through about an hour. I still got like about 37 minutes to go of that podcast. Dude, I'm telling you, that dude gets fired up in that video or in that podcast. It's great. It's great info. But look up Letters from Our Founding Fathers is the name of the podcast, and the episode is called Democracy, the Savage Enemy of the Constitution. And take a listen for yourselves. It does seem that it's not hard to look around, and it looks like they're trying to kill this country. They're trying to kill this nation. They want to destroy the republic, the constitutional republic. And you have to get the people to turn away from the thought of being in a republic to a democracy so that you can just kill everything and start your own little domestic empire. Remove private property rights. Just tell people, get people believing that their natural rights do not exist. Every right that you have comes from them. And if you don't like it, well, then we'll just, maybe we'll put you in a gulag somewhere. We'll censor you out of existence. And we have people in this state. We have people running for state office uttering the word democracy. Time after time after time. Now I'm telling you what, that is also a sad state of affairs. And I'm going to play a clip here from this meeting, city council meeting. This black gentleman is not very happy about all the immigrants coming in, and as he says, picking ducks up by the neck, cutting the heads off, and eating them. And wondering when the city council is going to do something about it. But we have had millions of illegal immigrants cross the border into this country. We are being invaded. The invasion's been going on for a while. In the last 3.5 years, it's amped up. Because of democracy. Because democracy is the thing that will kill the Constitution. It will kill the Republic. It will eliminate, or try very hard to, eliminate the natural rights of all citizens unless you're in the preferred group at that time. Your natural rights, you will not keep them. They will do everything in their power to take those away. And that is how you break the back of the American people, and that is how you break the back of the Republic, and that is how you break, destroy, eliminate, melt down a nation. And turn it into a landfill. And then the people, because they feel like they have nothing left to lose, or they're starving or whatever, become violent. And the very people they should be angry at, the very people that started this pitfall, that dug the pitfall, that a lot of people fell into the trap, they don't get mad at them. Oh, no. They get mad at their neighbor, some random person who might have more food than them or has something that they covet. That's who they're mad at. They're not mad at the right group of people. Two groups of people, media and the government. And all its agency, unconstitutional alphabet agencies. That's where the anger should be focused. And I'm not saying you have to be violent, but your anger should be directed at those folks. And some of it at themselves, because they fell into the trap. They allowed themselves to be brainwashed in the schools, by the media, and by their politicians. So some of that anger is going to be self-directed. It's going to be directed back at themselves. They're going to look in the mirror, and the anger is going to come back at them. I would hope. I would hope some of those people would be angry at themselves for falling for this and watching the downfall of a great nation, or at least in its inception was a great nation. I would hope that that's what I'd hope that's where the anger would be directed. But I don't know. Will it be? Will that anger be directed in the right places towards the right people? I doubt it. Not for a majority of them. Not for the majority. And that is what is so heartbreaking. Because people have been played like harps from hell. Let me pull up this video. I know it's already trying to start, and all I did was, all right, let me go full screen here. Hopefully this isn't blaring loud. Let me get the, there it is right there, Billy. Let me play this video from this gentleman at the Springfield City Commission meeting. Okay, let me pull up the screen. Why is this not full screen? Come on, stop. All right, I do not understand, Timmy. Let me get this full screen. There we go. All right, let me play this audio for you.
I think it's like kind of odd that like a guy like me has to come out from doing what I do on a daily basis to have fun, because I see what's going on in these streets, and I see you guys just sitting up there in them comfy chairs and suits, and like, and I'm getting out here every day, and I'm broadcasting this, and you guys are just sitting up there in suits or something. Like, I really challenge you guys to get out here and do something. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into, they flipping cars in the middle of the street. And I don't know how, like, y'all can be comfortable with this. Like, I don't know, like, who's getting paid from it. I honestly feel like someone's getting paid from it in the background. You got a bunch of people on a bus getting dropped off at a gas station to come down here. I know a single mom that FaceTimed me this morning at the welfare office that really need something. And it's nothing but immigrants over there. And I don't even want to, like, seem like I'm coming down on the immigrants, because it's the people that's bringing them down here. Because wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them. Like, y'all get the Highway State Patrol down here every week, and then y'all get like a task force for the Highway State Patrol, and they look for guns and they look for dope and this and that and the fourth. That same people that y'all got riding up and down Limestone doing U-turns, pulling people over for blinkers and pulling people over for, like, going left to center and, like, a couple miles over. Like, y'all can take them same people, the Highway State Patrol, and you can take them in every single one of their silver Chargers and Dodge Durangos, and y'all can take them to Sunset, and y'all can park them right over there, and y'all can teach people how to drive, since the Highway State Patrol knows so much about traffic laws and know what to do in traffic. Y'all pay them. They can go over there and teach these Haitians how to drive, because it's getting bro. I'm getting thousands of views on these, and it's going to get bigger, and it's only going to get worse. And y'all sitting up there in these chairs, all y'all need to get out here and do something. Y'all making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Y'all need to put on a T-shirt and some Crocs, and then y'all need to come out here in these streets, and y'all need to go out here and I'm out here before the police is. Like, y'all need to do something, bro. Y'all really got to stand on business. Y'all getting paid all this money just to wear a suit and sit in a chair. I think it's crazy, bro. We got to do something, bro. It's kids out here getting hurt. Like, only reason I even went on here and said something about it is because somebody told me they walking from the school and a Haitian almost ran into them. And who is getting paid? Like, how much money is y'all really getting paid, like, to bring them over here? Like, I know it's deeper than them. I know that's where they come from, and that's what they do. That's their country. I don't know what they got going on over there, but they can't do that over here. And if y'all just getting paid from it and then y'all ain't doing nothing about it, I think that's super weird, bro. Y'all got to stand on business. Y'all got to really, like, step up. Like, it's lame, bro.
So there's that. And, you know, it's funny that he brings this up, and he probably wasn't. He's got a good point where he says you guys got the highway patrol and they're whipping U-turns. You get somebody that didn't stay in their lane or going a couple miles over the speed limit, but then you got this. And again, this is how. This is what I keep talking about. We are being treated as the enemy. And you have people coming across the border by the thousands illegally. And who gets treated more like an enemy? Them or us? It's us. It's how dare you, speak ill of these illegal immigrants. Bro, what's the first word? Of those two words, what do you say? Illegal. Yeah, I think I should be due a little more respect than someone who's here illegally. Why? It's like a foreign concept, but it's really not. If you live in a democracy, this is what you get. You get this. You get treated like the enemy. Because the people who are supposed to be the government, if they are found to be the enemy of another group of people who are part of the government in a town and their ivory towers, that's how you destroy a nation. That's how you destroy a country. That's how you break the backs of the American people when you do this. When you treat people like the enemy. People who are just trying to go to work, make a living, have some fun, spend time with their family, keep a roof over their head, keep their car running, keep food in the house. And God, they seem like, and we are treated as more of a threat than the people that they just let traipse across the border and they give them thousands of dollars. Like it's just normal. Oh, well, that's what we, and you know, they want to make you believe, they try to get you to believe this is just what they've always done. No, it's not. This is not how it's always been done. Don't be a fool and believe that. Believe it or not, folks, it's hard to tell from the times we're living in. This country used to really care about its citizens. The people that represented us in the state houses and in the federal Capitol building, the White House, for the most part, seemed to care about the people in its inception. You know, about war, or you've been in a civil war, then things start getting a little dicey. And even after the Civil War, pre-World War I, and you know, like you had presidents like Calvin Coolidge, and you had congressmen who would openly speak out against tyrannical laws, anything that was going to go against the people, against the Constitution, they would speak out. And now that's taboo. Unless you're Thomas Massie, Rand Paul, in some instances. Thomas Massie seems to be the one and only true. I think somebody said the other day that he is the one person in D.C. that probably comes closest to the Founding Fathers. And but yeah, we are now treated as the enemy. And again, that's what ends up happening in a democracy. A democracy is suicidal. Democracies do not survive. They die. And they die violently. And that should bother everyone. But again, a whole lot of people are buying in to the old, we got to save democracy. I have heard people that I've been in conversation with say the same thing. And it is really hard for me not to blow my top. And ask them, have you ever taken a history class at all? Do you remember nothing of the Founding Fathers? Did the Founding Fathers talk about democracy? Yes, in a very negative fashion. There was a reason they considered us to be a republic and not a democracy. Because a democracy necessarily centralizes power. That's what happens in a democracy. The majority lord over the minority, and it centralizes power. And when you continually centralize power, you take power away from the people, and sometimes people willingly give it up, like the fools that they are. And they willingly give that power up to a central planner, as Tom Woods calls them, the lizard people, whatever label you want to throw on them. They willingly there's been several times, willingly handed the power over and put it in a central state. And every time you do that, it is nigh impossible to get that power back from them. Because most people don't seem too concerned about it. So yes, democracies depend on centralized power. Kind of like the Soviet Union and a lot of communist countries. All depend on centralized power. So we have the politicians talking about democracy. We have people running for Trump, Harris, love to, and now Harris, in the true form of democracy, wants to write laws on price gouging, which all states have laws against price gouging, so I don't know why the feds have to do it. And she wants the Affordable Homes Act. So she wants to build 3 million housing units. So the government is going to take and they're going to force resources into one sector. And if you are not a contractor lucky enough to get those contracts, all the other contractors outside of those whose best friends are politicians in D.C. get those contracts, and everybody else wanting to buy a house is going to have a heck of a time, because when the government forces money and resources into one tiny sliver of the economy, it drives the cost of those resources up. It causes scarcity, and it's just going to wreck the economy. And then they're talking about 3 million. You'll probably be lucky to get 3,000 homes out of that money. So the project will never be completed. And if it is completed, those 3 million homes are going to cost way more than what they initially said it's going to. And they're going to cause an economic crisis in the housing market. Would that happen in a republic where people understand in a constitutional form of government? Absolutely would not. If we had Austrian economists running things, let's backtrack a little bit. If we didn't have a Federal Reserve, these things wouldn't happen. If we didn't have a Federal Reserve, this wouldn't happen to begin with. And I have, on top of this, I've seen posts from people who said, Trump said he just wanted to deregulate. He thought it'd be good to deregulate the housing market, but that just means the contractors are gonna shortcut. Well, good night to you, David. Good seeing you in the live stream. But that just means they're gonna shortcut and cause a lot of safety problems. The first thought in my head is, no, they won't. And you know how I know they won't? Because every little town across the country, almost every town across this country, you know what they have? Code enforcers. They have building code enforcers. So how do you propose that every contractor is just going to cut corners and make the house cheaper? No, they won't. Because almost every town, I don't like them, but almost every town in this country has code enforcers. So how are they going to shortcut building? Because the code enforcer is going to come in and say, you can't do that. Dude, where's this? Where's that? He's going to stop the building process right there. So no, just because you deregulate doesn't mean that there's going to be evil contractors everywhere and they're just going to be, shortcutting and then houses are just falling down all over the place. It can't happen. You have code enforcers. So automatically you're just wrong. Again, don't like code enforcers. Find them to be arrogant fools a lot of times. Some, not all of them, but a great majority of them, power hungry. Probably have a spouse at home that beats the crap out of them. And they have to come out, and when they get to go into the office and go to work, then they take that frustration out on the contractors or whatever. But again, not going to happen. Would I like to see deregulation of the housing market? Absolutely, I would. Because I believe in about a year or so, housing prices would drop. Because our government and the Federal Reserve has been artificially, by inflation and doing some other things, are artificially keeping prices high so that certain people make a lot of money. And in the end, then you get a big bust because the resources aren't going where they're supposed to be going, or they're diverting resources where they don't need to go, and you have to have a contraction. So you cause this big bubble, you divert resources, you divert money to these things. People are taking risky investments and falling into this pit trap. Oh, they gave us more credit. We can get these loans and we can build these things. And they're forcing the resources and the money into those areas where it's unnecessary. And then when people figure it out, and when the whole bubble bursts and it contracts, because that's a market correction, Then you have a downturn, and if you God forbid we have another 2008, and I can see maybe that a policy like the Affordable Homes Act could cause a giant housing bubble to burst. But again, this is what democracy gets you. And I listen, folks, I don't enjoy saying this at all. I don't like it. You know, you also get into democracy. You get, now this was from September 12th, and this was a tweet from Clint Russell. This is what else you get in a democracy when you have a central bank, which constitutes a lot of, well, just never-ending wars. It is expected that Blinken will announce tomorrow, which should have been, today, that the U.S. has given Ukraine the green light to strike deep inside Russia using Western-made Storm Shadow missiles. This would mean NATO and the U.S. are at war with Russia. And this is what you get when people are too busy watching this side show freak, this freak show, this circus between Harris and Trump. And the media is not talking about any of this. They don't keep talking about the proxy war that the U.S. is fighting with Russia. And now we're going to strike deep the Shadow missile system. And it's I was going to play the audio from Putin, but then I would have to sit there and read the subtitles because, of course, he's speaking Russian, and I don't know Russian because I'm not a Putin puppet. But, it's, I forgot what the heck I was going to say. God almighty. But, he said that the Ukraine army already does stuff with drones and everything else. He's like, but they could not do these missile strikes because they don't have the satellites to get aerial footage of where we're going to strike. So that means the U.S. is helping them. Our satellites are pinpointing targets for the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are using those coordinates to strike deep inside Russian territory. Did you hear are you hearing anything about this, really? No, of course you're not. You're not hearing squat. So we have complete and utter retards pushing us into just right on the verge of World War III. So at the end of the day, honestly, does it really matter if you can't get a house at a good price if your government seems hell-bent on world destruction? Or is this what democracy gets you? This is what democracy gets you. This could cause the ruination of a country. Why? How? By melting us down in a nuclear fire. But, no big deal, right? No big deal. As long as Trump's not in office, we'll all be great. Where nobody can gouge us on food prices anymore, and we'll be able to get a house, a government-built house. If that's not scary enough for you, I don't know what is. But if our government and these people in the Department of Defense and the CIA and stuff don't stop meddling in places they have no business meddling in, especially playing chicken with a nuclear superpower, all the houses in the world ain't going to mean jack squat if they're all in an ash heap because we decided to screw around and find out. I can't say the actual word, but you know what I'm getting at. You're picking up what I'm putting down. You're smelling what I'm barbecuing, right? You can't build a house on craters when there's fallout everywhere. No, hardly a mention. Hardly a sentence uttered about all these proxy wars. about, it's like we took a big, giant transport plane, and then we just suspend a giant metal spoon, and we go into these countries and we just stir the pot. I don't know how many lessons on blowback this government needs, but apparently they're not learning. They have not learned their lesson about blowback. It's freaking, I mean, there's so much going on. And I know for a lot of people, it's just hard to keep track of. But there are certain things that are just common sense, or at least should be common sense. There are facts right in front of your face. There are entities in this country that ruin everything for everyone. And first on that list is the Federal Reserve banking system. Central banks just ruin everything for everyone, almost everyone, except if maybe you're a big Wall Street guy or a big billionaire. Because if they print money, the first people it goes to are the banks and the big wigs, and they don't feel the inflation until the money trickles down to us. We're the ones that get hit with the inflation. But I think the central bank is the biggest threat to this nation. And then after that would be our government. And, that's, I guess, the title of this, live stream is, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Because I don't see us ever straightening out Washington, D.C. And it seems as though even in Missouri, I don't see, unless the majority of the people get a grasp of the Constitution of the state of Missouri and get a decent grasp of the U.S. Constitution, I don't see Missouri getting turned around. Because we have people who say they want liberty, or they like to say the word freedom, they like to mention the word Constitution, but they vote for people who don't care about either thing. And until we take the Constitution seriously, and until we take liberty seriously, this state will continue to drop down into the sewer. And it's not going to be by electing one guy as governor that's going to solve it. Because if that guy is constitutional, he understands he has certain limited powers. That the senators and representatives write the legislation, and he can choose to sign those bills into law, or he can choose to veto and force the legislative body to override the veto. So even if we elect somebody, and that's the thing we got to come to grips with. We could elect a guy who's super constitutional, but the body, the legislative body, also has to be constitutional. They have to be more constitutional leaning. Or he could veto the laws, or the bills that come across his desk, and they turn around and they override them. So it's multifaceted, folks. We have to have a constitutional governor. We have to have a constitutional legislative body. Or things are not going to turn around. You could take somebody like Mike Moon and make him governor. Is this state going to improve? The only thing that you would get accomplished is if you have a Mike Moon type governor, right? Let's say Thomas Massie reincarnated would become our governor. He could slow things down by constantly vetoing bad bills. But if the body itself is crap and it's unconstitutional and they override it, all he's going to do is slow the process down a little bit. But a bunch of those folks are going to, dirty governor, he won't sign our bills that We're doing this for the people. And if they override it, we're still stuck. So therein lies the problem. It's not. Listen, I don't want people to think I'm just giving up hope. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is a lot of people need to study the Constitution. I myself need to go back through it. I went through it once, highlighted boatloads of stuff. I need to go back through it and reread it again. Go back through all the highlighted portions of that document and get them more embedded in the old brain up here. So I have to do it too. But until people, I would love it if I don't. And see, here's where I'm torn at, right? Because I would love to see somebody write or tell DESE to say, okay, in the curriculum now is every high school has to, and every child must take a MOCON class. And if they don't pass it, they don't graduate. Again, though, there's a problem. It is you're expecting DESE to write a good MOCON curriculum. And so therein lies the problem. You're expecting the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, that's unconstitutional, to create a school curriculum that kids have to pass on the Missouri Constitution, therefore canceling itself out. That would be like taking matter and antimatter and pushing them together. When that happens, you annihilate. Nothing's created. Those particles just cease to exist. And that's what would happen if DESE created a MOCON curriculum. We would have to have somebody create one that knows the Constitution, knows the history, create that curriculum and say, put this into every high school. They must pass it in order to graduate. I mean, honestly, again, that means we're counting on government-run schools to do this. That's a scary thought. But it would be an interesting one. It would be an interesting exercise to see if that would change the course at all. Would it in the end? I don't know. But it would be an interesting experiment, if you will. Now, speaking of Mr. Massie here, he had some thoughts about the political theater in D.C. Let me pull this up. We'll give a listen to Mr. Massie talking about the title at the top of this. I bookmarked this on X a couple days ago. Representative Massie, I refuse to be a thespian in this failure theater. Pull up the screen here. We'll listen to what Mr. Massie has to say. He's always got something good to say.
And I would call on Mr. Massie.
Can we be honest with the American people about what's going on here? This is political theater. I'm going to call out both sides right here. It's all posturing. It's fake fighting. We all know where it ends up. This is Groundhog Day. I don't care if the Democrat is the speaker or Republican is the speaker. We always get a CR in September, and then we get an omnibus. Sometimes there's a twist on that. We might get the omnibus before Christmas, but if we're not good, it comes after Christmas. But that's what's going to happen. And in the meantime, it's political theater. You know, we've got some, it's good theater. We've got great writers. I wish they'd just come up with a new plot. It's the same plot every fiscal year. What should we be doing? It's already been discussed. We should have done 12 separate bills. We should have done 12 separate bills. But again, whether Democrats are in control or Republicans are in control, we never do the 12 separate bills. Why do we always spend at least as much as we did last year, and why do we never cut spending? It's because Democrats want to grow the welfare state, and Republicans want to grow the military-industrial complex. And we're eventually going to get together, and they're both going to go up. I guarantee it. And both parties are just fine letting the bureaucrats do their thing, which should be our thing according to Article 1, Section 8 in the Constitution. We are empowered with these things. Most important of the things we do is the funding, and that's the big lever we have. You know, I've sat through now almost 2 years of hearings in this Congress where we've exposed lies at the CDC, shortcuts at the FDA, unconstitutional gun bans at the ATF, over-prosecution of January 6ers at the DOJ, targeting common citizens at the FBI, spying by the NSA, illegal mandates for livestock by the USDA, targeting plant vaccine or transgenic plant vaccine at the NSF, and censorship. The censorship industrial complex of which the NSF is part of. Automobile kill switch at the DOT. Now, these are all things I think most Democrats are just fine with, this kind of totalitarian state that the bureaucrats are pushing on us. But Republicans at least pretend to be against these things. But what are we going to do this September? We're going to fund every freaking one of those things that we have exposed. That is the tool that we have, is the funding. Why are we funding things we don't like? We don't have to. Well, it's because we're addicted to spending. And this doesn't do anything about the addiction at all. So let me touch on one point too here that I think is important. Is, you know, a couple years ago, or a summer and a half ago, I suppose now, we did something where we allowed the debt limit to be increased. But as a condition of that, we said if you do a CR that lasts past April 30th, everything's going to get cut 1%. And that, to me, seemed like at least a little tinge of fiscal responsibility was creeping in. But now I notice that this CR, instead of going 1 year and giving us time to do the 12 appropriations bills, is going to go 6 months. Now, let me tell you what's going to happen because this goes 6 months. Number one, it ends in March 28th, on March 28th. Well, the automatic cuts happen on April 30th if the CR went past that. So that is exactly why the Speaker chose a 6-month CR, is so we don't have even the chance, a threat to this town, it's a threat of a 1% cut. We don't want to even, this is like T-ball. The 1% cut is on the tee, and Republicans won't even swing at it. So instead, we're going to do a 6-month CR instead of a 1-year CR. That sets up another crisis next spring where we can do another pretend fight sometime around March. And that fight it'll be the same fight regardless of who wins the presidency and who's in charge of the Senate and the House. And we're basically going to get pretty much the same result. But that's 6 months from now. In the meantime, we can kick the can down the road. All of these things that we've exposed and all of these hearings are going to continue to get funded. But wait, there's a bright, shiny object on this CR. I've never seen one of these. I have never seen a bright, shiny object attached to one of these must-pass bills. Oh, wait, no. It actually happens. There always is. A bright, shiny object. A bauble, if you will. A little something to get excited about. This SAVE Act. It's going to save us all, right? And by the way, this is good political theater. I do like this part of it, that we're going to see almost every Democrat cast a vote so that illegals can vote in our elections. I mean, that's pretty clever on the part of our Speaker to set that up, make you all take that vote. But here's what he's going to do after you take that vote. He's going to take it off. The bright, shiny object goes away. It's Lucy and the football again. And the American public is all revved up. Yeah, we're going to get to save it. We're going to save these elections. We're going to stop the illegals from voting. Really? How are you going to do that in like 6 weeks? I think they're already registered if they're going to vote. Some of them probably already voted. This SAVE Act ain't going to save anything. And particularly because it ain't ever going to become law. It's a false promise to get all the Republicans half pregnant. And then you're going to get fully pregnant by the end of September when you vote for this CR. That is not going to have this, I mean, I hate to break this to you. I mean, the Democrats already know this. I'm not telling you anything special. I hate to break it to the Republicans. You ain't getting the SAVE Act. It is not going to stay on this bill. Why? Because we're going to cave. We're going to cave. Is it a fight worth having? Absolutely, it's a fight worth having. Make those Democrats say they want illegals to vote. Make them take that vote as many times as you can. And then make them go to the ballot box in November. But that's what it is political theater, folks. We all know where it ends up. We've seen it. I've been here 12 years. I've seen it 12 times. I refuse to be a thespian in this failure theater.
So good stuff there from Mr. Massie, as usual. Dead on the point. Just like always. He's always, and that's the thing. God, can you imagine having 10 to 15 Thomas Massies in Missouri? Just in the Missouri legislature. 10 to 15 people like him, just in the House. Just making the lives of a whole bunch of other people in that building, just making their lives hell. I think that would be hilarious. I mean, oh my God, that would be great theater. Watching 10 or 15 Thomas Massie types stand up to talk about why a bill is unconstitutional, or talking about the political theater and how things are actually going to go when people aren't paying attention. Yeah, that's what we need. We need, and that's the thing. You may get 10 to 15 constitutional type people in, let's say, the House of Representatives. And let's say they're kind of powerless to get too many things stopped, right? But if you get 10 to 15 constitutionally sound representatives in a body, man, can those 10 to 15 people do a lot of damage if they just get out and speak the truth on these topics. If they get out there and they just hammer things home, the damage that they could do. And sometimes when you get these, that's the greatest thing about Thomas Massie. You can count on him to vote constitutionally a major majority of the time. But it's when he gets these interviews on, Fox or some of these other podcasts and other news shows, and he just lays it all out nice and pretty. He's very civilized about it, but you can tell the man is, he's an MIT graduate. The guy's smart as, he's smart as a whip. But he also backs up what he says with facts. He knows how he's supposed to govern. He understands. And how sad is it that you have that many people in Washington, D.C., and one guy is consistent? One guy is consistent. It's hard to hold out much hope when one person out of hundreds seems to be up to snuff. Oh God. And but yeah, that's it in a nutshell, folks. We we have a whole lot of representatives and senators across this country who wouldn't know the Constitution if it hit them in the head, and they don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They care about power and money. They're greedy. Some of them seem to be soulless or demonic almost. And, yeah. I'm going to play another video. I want to thank Cheryl Bowl for sending this to me earlier. This is hard. Folks, the audio I'm about to play, it's not easy to listen to. It's disgusting. But we've got Amendment 3 coming up on the ballot that would put abortion in the freaking Constitution. And I want to hear from. I want to play this video from this doctor, and I want you to listen to it, as gut-wrenching as it is. Because when we talk about democracy, and you know, Tom and I touched on this last week. That you know, the beginning of the Constitution, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if you want to kill a baby, yeah, that's cool. Go ahead. Because we're not talking about that life. We're talking about different life. Not those lives, the other lives. It's fine. We don't, the babies' lives, This is how you destroy a nation, by the way. Here's another way you destroy a nation. By taking the humanity out of life. Make certain lives seem like no big deal if that one's gone. This country is moving, has been moving, it continues to move. This is going to be the same way they treat the elderly, especially if you get full-blown government-controlled health care. You'll get to a point where you're like, oh, you're too old. You don't need that procedure. Just go home and die. Or here, we'll put you in hospice or go to a nursing home. Whatever. And life will just be casually thrown away like it's some busted up piece of, technology. Some little, my flat screen TV went out. Let's go get a new one. Oh, just pitch it in the trash. Oh, my toaster shot crap, so I guess I'll just go get a new one. Throw it in the trash. That's how life is going to be treated. It's already been treated that way, and it's going to continue to get worse. But yeah, this only goes about a little over 2.5 minutes, but this is just really hard to stomach. But people need to hear this. They need to understand.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to get right to it. Second trimester D&E abortions performed between roughly 14 and 24 weeks of gestation. Your patient today is 17 years old. She's 22 weeks pregnant. Her baby is the length of your hand plus a couple of inches. And she's been feeling her baby kick for the last several weeks, but she's asleep on an operating room table. You walk into that operating room scrubbed and gowned, and after removing laminaria, you introduce a suction catheter into the uterus. This is a 14 French suction catheter. If she were 12 weeks pregnant or less, basically the width of your hand or smaller, you could basically do the entire procedure with this. But babies this big don't fit through catheters this size. After suctioning the amniotic fluid out from around the baby, you introduce an instrument called a Sofer clamp. It's about 13 inches long. It's made of stainless steel. The business end of this clamp is about 2.5 inches long and a ½ inch wide. There are rows of sharp teeth. This is a grasping instrument. When it gets a hold of something, it does not let go. A D&E procedure is a blind abortion, so picture yourself introducing this and grabbing anything you can blindly and pull, and I do mean hard, and out pops a leg about that big, which you put down on the table next to you. Reach in again, and pull out an arm about the same length, which you put down on the table next to you. And use this instrument again and again to tear out the spine, the intestines, the heart and lungs. Head on the baby that size is about the size of a large plum. Can't see it, but you pretty good idea you've got it if you've got your instrument around something and your fingers are spread about as far as they go. You know you did it right if you crush down on the instrument and white material runs out of the cervix. That was the baby's brains. Then you could pull out skull pieces. And you have a day like I had a lot of times. Sometimes a little face comes back and stares back at you. Congratulations. You just successfully performed a second trimester D&E abortion. You just affirmed her right to choose. You know, earlier on I described stacking up body parts on the side of the table. It's not to, gross people out, to use a simple term. When you do an abortion, you need to keep inventory. You have to make sure you get 2 arms and 2 legs and all the pieces. If you don't, your patient's going to come back infected, bleeding, or dead. You know, after over 1,200 abortions, first and second trimester up to 24 weeks and all the rest of it, and being very dedicated to it, for the first time in my life, I really looked. I really looked at that pile of body parts on the side of the table. And I didn't see her wonderful right to choose, and I didn't see all the money I just made. All I could see was somebody's son or daughter. And I stopped doing late-term abortions after that, and several months later stopped doing all abortions. Thank you, Chairman, and members of the committee.
So there you have that disgusting. I didn't want. I don't want to play this stuff. I don't want to play it. People got to figure this crap out. That life is just not something you just toss in the trash when it becomes useless to you or becomes uncomfortable or an inconvenience. You don't just throw it out like yesterday's trash. You don't. You can. And you will create a culture that just spirals out of control. And it looks at life as something that's just, no big deal. Just get rid of it. We don't need it. They don't need it. And there's a whole bunch of people in government that pretty cool with it, seemingly. Seemingly just like, yeah, cool. Let's do it. And the Democrats and their sick cult members are going state to state, getting abortion put on the ballot to get it in the Constitution, and they tie it in with elections. So they get their people all fired up. They get them all to go vote. They'll get abortion put into the Constitution, and they'll get their sick other cult leaders elected to continue the push for choice and take a country right down the crapper. Lead its people to just constant immorality and completely fine with, if they're not on our team, taking things away from them, taking their rights, taking their property, taking their life, maybe throwing them in jail for 20 years because they're not on our team. They're not woke like us. They're not tolerant people. They voted for a certain person that had an R behind their name. We can't let those people hang around here. We've got to do something. Then what happens? These people don't ever entertain the thought of what happens if we get rid of all of our quote-unquote enemies. They don't think about that. You still have in its death throes a democracy hell-bent on its own death. You've centralized so much power to a select few people. What do you think's going to happen when all your supposed enemies are gone? Who do you think those central planners will focus on when the job is done? Sometimes you get eliminated, you get taken out like yesterday's trash because you know too much. You were an enabler. You might have helped. You might have been cheering it on and going out there and doing helping get all these things done. seen it in a lot of communist countries, but because we live in this fairy tale land, it's the United States, that won't happen here, or that wasn't the right form of communism. They didn't do it right. They'll literally lay out a path to their own downfall, and cheering as they go, like it's something to celebrate. Until, just like every freaking thing else that happens between regulation and law, they don't react until it's too late. They don't see their folly. They don't see the end until it's hitting them square between the eyes. And then they're going to freak out. And then at those last few moments, they're going to come to grips with their mistake. When it's too late to do anything about it. And that's on both sides of the political aisle. People look for leaders who are, in some, maybe on the milder end or on the spicier end, tyrants. They want to control something. They'll find something to put their thumb on and put their tyrannical, chubby, little fat thumb on it. And maybe it's affecting the other guys. What happens when that guy's out of office? That power continues on. That cycle continues. Now he's going to go after the other side. They didn't see it coming because they think their team's always going to win or whatever. They always think they're going to have the upper hand in this duopoly, this snake with two heads, two wings of the same bird, however you want to put it. This naive notion that they're always right. So naive. This notion that they have that they're always going to be on the winning side. And they're right because their guy's in off. We picked the right guy. We picked a tyrant who was just a little less tyrannical. Still a tyrant. Just not quite as tyrannical as the other guy on the other side of the aisle. And both political parties do this. Both sides of, you got the red cult and the blue cult, as Tom would say. You have these cult members who will happily vote for a tyrant that wears their colors. And who says the key words to make the hamsters in their brain hit the button. And then when it's too late, the freak out starts. And for whatever freaking reason that people have to follow along in the it can't happen here freak show. It won't happen here. This is United States. We're the greatest country on the face of the earth. It'll never happen here. Famous last words from a lot of people in a lot of other countries. I honestly believe, even though, folks, we have a war for the minds and hearts of people in this country, a very devastating war, brainwashing people into falling for the tricks of tyrants. But it's not a war that they understand is being waged. Too many people don't understand that there's a war being waged against them. And even some people who believe that there's a war being waged against them will still vote for a somewhat tyrant because at least it's not as tyrannical as the other guy. But they just keep going until it's too late. I don't know what you do, and I don't know, how do you get people to understand that you have to be proactive and not reactive? That's what we need. We need a proactive people. We need people to recognize tyranny in its starting form and killing it right there. Not letting it get like a deer in the headlight and letting the truck get almost to him and then react. But by the time by that time you've done been run over. The tyranny truck done smash you like a bug. But again, people have to recognize where we are, how we started out to where we are now, where we're continually going at a more rapid pace. Because we have too many people who still believe that one person in an elected office in Washington, D.C. will save them from everything. Will solve all their problems. Will cure what ails them. When that body of people, those people who are generally senators or representatives now running for president, generally are the cause of those problems. And for some silly reason, they think that once they get in the White House, they're going to change. Once they get to the highest office in the land, they're going to reverse course. They're really going to get it done this time. Yeah, Voodoo Queen says it starts at home, and it does. Parents out there listening who are up in the air about what to teach their kids, what to tell their kids, how about telling them, how about, I don't know, going online, finding Tuttle Twins books and buying them and giving them to your kids. Read them to your kids at a young age. I, in fact, am going to be ordering some for my granddaughter. Even if I keep them here so when she visits, I read her Tuttle Twins books. Start teaching them about being sovereign. Start teaching them about not depending on a government body, an elected official, an agency, an institution to take care of them. Teach them to take care of themselves. Teach them that they were created, that their Creator gave them the ability to recognize right from wrong, to cherish life, to cherish freedom, to hold and cling tightly to those things, those ideas. That's the first step. If you can homeschool your kid, you're doing them a huge favor. Don't listen to the people out there like, well, your kids won't be socialized correctly. Really? Going to schools with litter boxes because kids are furries and it's thinking that the LGBTQ stuff is more important than civics class? Do you think that socializes kids well? Do you really? You think that's do you? You think that's right? I've stated this so many times. I've got that old man mentality washing over me. I am 51, getting very close to, I got 2 months left to being 52. And boy, oh boy, does that get off my lawn mentality just keep creeping up into my brain, just keeps branching out. And I can remember being younger and thinking that these adults, God, man, just chill out a little bit, man. Calm down. They'll be fine. Cool out. Now I'm 51. And I'm like, what are we doing? Where are we going? Who's in control of this car? I just would like to get off this bus, please. Seems as if we're heading for an accident. I feel like I'm on a Titanic and we're just heading towards the iceberg. And everybody's like, I don't see an iceberg. And then some idiot will be like, this used to be a complete, full, this was just, used to be all ice. And then global warming came and created this iceberg, and we're about to crash into it. But we deserve it because we weren't taking care of the environment. Make your friggin' eyes cross. But I just want to get off that mode of transportation that's driving us head on into something horrific. And I just don't want my kids and grandkids to suffer through what's coming for them. Because of democracy. Because we have to protect democracy. I don't want my kids to watch the death throes of a nation that they were born into. And then just indoctrinated from kindergarten to graduation in high school, maybe college. Being told all these different things. Feeling bad about your skin color. Claiming that this nation was just built on, everything was just built on racism. And white privilege and all these other things, LGBTQ. And just watching it all get flushed down the drain. Seemingly all by design. All by design. And it's gut-wrenching to me. And I know when my kids were much younger, they probably thought Dad was a little cuckoo for saying the things that he said. But now, especially like my son, he sees it. He recognizes it. He understands it. That's the first step. Getting your kids to understand what is right. What is right? What are your natural rights? It's okay to look out for your neighbor. Just don't ask government to do it for you. Do it yourself. It's okay to care about the homeless or those less fortunate. Don't create a government program to fix it. Get a bunch of like-minded people to do it. And Voodoo Queen makes a good point here. Just wait. The draft will be here by Christmas. Then watch them scream. Yeah, because now the selective service thing's all automatic. You hit 18, boom, you're instantly entered. And since we have a country, I shouldn't say country, my bad. Since we have a government that seems hell-bent on getting us into another war that'll go on for years and years and years, there'll be a whole lot of kids being sent somewhere to get blown up or shot at or killed, maimed, whatever. All in the name of fighting for democracy. All under the guise of making the world a better place. And folks, generally, you don't spread freedom at the end of a barrel of a gun. We all know this. We know this to be true. Freedom should be spread by example and not by force. If we still lived in a republic, constitutional, if we acted as though we were a constitutional republic, we would not be doing these things. But again, we have politicians fighting for democracy. Again, the forefathers warned many, many times about this mindset. And those cries have been unanswered. Those cries have gone unheard for the most part. There are people out there paying very close attention. But the majority of the people, they don't know about those those letters written by Adams and Madison and some of the others, because they're not taught to them in school. And they don't seem to have the ability to work these problems out in their head. We're just, I don't want to come on here and seem all doom and gloom. I really don't. But it's hard not to, it's hard not to be pessimistic when you look around. It's really hard. And I want to be optimistic. I want to say that people are going to learn and become more educated, more knowledgeable, fight for liberty, fight for the truth, and be sovereign people. But it's a little hard to do right now, honestly. Well, folks, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Hopefully, so Brandon and his fiance had a baby. I'm not going to tell you a whole lot. It's just the baby was born a little early. Seems to be healthy, but your kid's born early. The baby's in NICU. I don't know how much longer he'll be in there, but Brandon took a week off to be at the hospital with the baby, and I completely understand that. One other thing that I should have mentioned at the beginning of the show that I did not. One of my listeners that's here about every week, Gary, had a tragedy in his family. Terrible tragedy. I will not go into any more detail than that. Just know that Gary needs your prayers because he's going through a tough time right now. So, Gary, sorry for your loss, man, and I hope that you guys can find some comfort. I know that's not going to be easy, but Gary's anybody that knows Gary knows that Gary's a really good dude. Do about anything for anybody, and but yeah, he's had a heartbreaking tragedy in the family, and yeah, he just needs your thoughts and he needs your prayers right now, and that's all I'm going to say on that. I don't want to, like I said, it's not my place to go into detail. If Gary wants to do that, Gary will do that on his own, and we'll leave it at that. But all right, folks, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Thanks so much for joining me. As people like Voodoo Queen and Tom Martz and Agorizer and Warrior Class 3 and David Dwyer and Catherine Dreyer and so many others do. Even if they don't watch the live stream, they're watching afterwards, and I greatly appreciate, again, the continued support and viewership here on the Missouri Liberty Report. For those of you on the radio side, the podcast side, greatly appreciate each and every one of you as well. I hope you enjoyed this content, and I hope you will continue to enjoy this content as when Brandon comes back, as Brandon and I continue to deep dive into liberty topics. But again, folks, thanks so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday right here on the Missouri Liberty Report.